The hill sat silently, with his eyes full of pride, learning from what was in front of him. He was shaped by and home to primarily a lion, an owl, and a colony of ants. The young lion was very vocal, very proud, and had this sense of ownership of all things around. He had frequent bouts with animals nearby, and mainly wanted to show his dominance. Dominance sometimes he felt was unnecessary. Over time, his paws grew callous and his mane grew thick. But every time, he found himself to be drawn by the welcoming shade of a banyan tree that lay at the center of the hill. As he made himself comfortable under its shade, he crossed his arms and rested his head, and his eyes fell upon a stream of ants flowing nearby. The ants worked tirelessly, day in and day out. They flowed like water, their symphonic movements helping one another, seemed quite independent but still united. The ants flowed seamlessly, and one of the ants chanced upon a grayish-white feather. He stopped to investigate and looked up to the sky. The omniscient owl, with his long ears and ruffled feathers, stared right back at him, right into this tiny ant's eyes. The owl had perched himself on top of the banyan tree, and nothing escaped his gaze, ever learning from all that he could see. The hill was silent, with his eyes full of doubt. For many a times he had been plagued by heavy rains, and floods had ravaged his slopes. Many a times his rocks had hit bottom, and many a times he'd been plagued by internal conflicts. For example, the lion and the ants did not get along, because the lion loved his resting place on top of the ant hill, and of course destroying it in the process. But the hill sat silently, learning from what was in front of him. Seeing this conflict, the owl fled his perch, and with a gentle flap of his wings and the voice of his reason, he let the lion know of his fault. The lion's eyes grew big and turned around with his face burning. With march-past precision, the ants mounted the lion's back and began their onslaught. The lion roared in anguish and swung his tail out of desperation. And eventually, he beseeched the owl for some guidance. The owl requested the ants to stop their onslaught and brought peace to the banyan tree. And the hill sat silently, learning from what was in front of him. Eventually, over time, the lion grew content without affecting others. The ant community grew stronger, and the owl grew wiser. And over time, the hill grew confident of celebrating small successes and setting his eyes onto challenging goals. But the hill sat silently, staring at his own weaknesses and strengths and learning from them eventually. He had now learned to turn the waters from the rain into beautiful lakes and waterfalls. And now he felt that he was in a position to help all those in need. The three animals here symbolize the emotions felt by the hill. The lion symbolizing the hill's sense of pride. The owl symbolizing the hill's sense of knowledge and wisdom. And the community of ants symbolized the hill's sense of belonging and relationships. The hill sat silently, learning from from what was always in front of him. The hill sat silently now with his eyes sure about his future, continuing to learn from the mountain that was always in front of him, continuing to observe the mountain which had suffered similar obstacles and how the mountain learned to overcome them. The mountain was always there as a prime source of example to the hill, sharing with the hill his examples, his knowledge, and his vast expanse of experiences. I am the hill and my father, the mountain. Ever since I was a kid, as a child, and then as a teenager, and as an adult, I've annoyed him a lot, but I've valued him, revered him, and learned from him the most. I am what I am today, all because of him. I do hope all of you had a wonderful Father's Day weekend, and thank you to all the wonderful fathers out there. Another round of applause for my dad, because in my own way, I am my own amazing self thanks to my dad. And after all, I am my father's son. Thank you.